What? All right. 3, 2, 1.
What is up? Welcome to another podcast of 6 Months Behind. I'm Pat.
I'm Sean.
And it is the week of April the 11th. The comic books came out this week. We are ready to discuss. We're almost through the epic saga that have dragged on for 9 years of Secret Wars. There's just a few Secret Wars books left, and we're almost to the all new, all different Marvel, and we're also excited about it.
Yay.
That's our excitement level. That is
quite honestly. We have lived the eon of Secret Wars, and I'm ready to move on.
You know, it's supposed to be a summer book. You know, so 2 months, 3 months, and they just drug it out, man. They just drug it out. It all went wrong, man. Well, it went wrong last summer when they were publishing it, and it went wrong now when it's coming out on Unlimited.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Whatever. I just enjoy the books, and at least we're getting the new stuff.
And the new stuff is great. And it gave them, for those who aren't familiar with it, it gave them an opportunity to literally blow up their universe, as we'll discuss in one of the titles that we reviewed this week, to blow up their universe, reboot everything, not in a complete major way, but in a significant way, and start the universe over again, which is what they did. And it let them fine-tune things, bring this character back to life, kind of reset that character a little bit. It allowed them to do it. It's just the process kind of got drug out longer than they would have liked. Not as bad as some of DC's reboots, but, pretty bad.
Shots fired.
Yeah, there you go. That being said, the first book up this week is A-Force number 5. Did you get an opportunity to read this book?
No, I haven't read any of the A-Force stuff, although I'm probably going to read the new A-Force ongoing series when it launches.
It's really cool. It's basically a female Avengers team. That's right. What it's going to be when it launches. It's going to be a female Avengers team. That's what it is here. This as it came out and unfolded, basically they live in a version, what am I looking for? A idealistic version of New York. And She-Hulk and her team of Avengers are tasked with defending it. They're betrayed by one of their members, actually by 2 or 3 of their members, and 2 or 3 die along the way. This is the last issue of the book, and it's very good, very well written, great art. It had a very good ending. They introduced a new character in this book, which I'm interested to see if they bring into the new universe. It was a very good book. I really enjoyed it. It's a good read. I mean, now that all 5 issues are there, it's one of those things you sit on reading in the evening and really enjoy.
Yeah, and some of these 5-issue series, as we'll continue to discuss, that come out of the Secret Wars thing have been some of the best writing that's come out of Marvel in a while.
Yeah, and this was one of them. This was really good. The next one up is Captain America, Sam Wilson, number 1. Somehow I missed that one. Yeah, it is. Somehow I missed it on the list, but I'm looking at it on the. Yeah. Okay. Y'all don't know, but we're looking at a list, and I'm looking at the books.
You didn't want to start with Civil War number 5?
Civil War number 5 works for me. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's go back to the list and not my comic book list here.
Yeah.
Yes. Civil War number 5. Take it.
This is exactly what I was talking about. This series has been brilliantly written. Charles Soule, who I didn't know about until just a few months ago, and he seems to be one of the up and coming writers at Marvel. He's writing a bunch of stuff here. It imagines that the Civil War went a different way, and you end up with the nation literally divided into the blue and the red. Captain America rules one part, Iron Man the other, and it's been years and years. And finally, the conflict explodes, and this is the resolution issue. And I'm not going to spoil it for anybody, but man,
it had a good resolution.
Yeah, it was great. This is, even if you don't care anything about the Secret Wars stuff, this is totally worth a read. Absolutely.
This is totally worth a read. Yes, this is because it has all of the major Marvel characters involved in it. Totally worth the read.
Yeah, 5 thumbs up.
Yes. Okay, I am back on the correct list now. Thank you very much. Marvel Zombies number 4. Marvel's got this whole zombie franchise going, and I'm just not a zombie guy. I'm not really a Living Dead guy. I'm not a zombie guy. I'm really not a Marvel zombie guy. I kind of glanced at this book just to see if it had any tie-ins because the zombies in Secret Wars play a let me just tease you with this. I'll tease you with this, Sean. What are zombies? They're undead. What is T'Challa running around calling himself? The king of the undead. So as you can figure out, they kind of the two kind of sync up there toward the end of Secret Wars. So I was looking at this book to see if it kind of tied in at all toward as we get toward the end of Secret Wars. Had nothing to do with it whatsoever. Some characters I didn't know were kind of, one of them was alive. She's dealing with her dead daddy. I don't know. I don't know. Didn't interest me at all. Spider Island number 5.
I did not read this, unfortunately. But I understand it's got Mayday Parker in it as Spider-Woman, who, if you guys don't know who Mayday Parker is, she's Peter Parker's daughter with Mary Jane Watson from another universe. Something like that.
Something like that, yes.
Yeah.
Miss Marvel number 19. The writers were given at the start of Secret Wars an opportunity. They could either reboot their stuff into a limited series such as A-Force or Civil War, or they could take their books and write them during the course of Civil War in a series called Last Days, where you get to take up all the storylines you're doing and tie them up into a neat little bow. I have never read this series of Miss Marvel. I, however, did read this number 19, and it was interesting because it took all of the characters, tied them up into a neat little bow, and then blew up the world. So you have her kissing a guy, I assume is her boyfriend, as the world blows up behind him. It was a pretty cute ending scene.
Sure.
And they did a good job of wrapping it up. I've literally never read an issue with this young lady as Miss Marvel, but it was a good job of winding the book up. And I just wanted to see how they wound it up, where they were going with it. They did a good job carrying it on to the next phase. And I know she'll be in the all new, all different Marvel. There you go. I'll be glad we stopped saying that.
Yeah, she's in one of the new Avengers books that off the top of my head, I cannot remember which one it is. But I actually, while I haven't read much of this, I actually really like her as Miss Marvel. She represents a certain demographic that is more prevalent among us younger generations, and therefore her appeal is wider. Plus, Carol Danvers, it's time for her to be something else. And
she's something else.
Yeah, she's Captain Marvel, and I think that role suits her really well.
Yeah, I mean she's Captain Marvel. She's binary. Binary is what I was trying to think of. She's something else too. So
yeah, she's been a bunch of things over the years, but
yeah, I mean, so she's got her place. This little girl's Miss Marvel. It's all cool, man.
Yeah, just like you got the lady Captain America running around that's a teenager, and she's in one of those Avengers books too.
Yeah. So it's all good. Okay. And speaking of the all new, all different, we need to make a sound effect or something for that. The all new, all different Marvel. We are now to the Captain America Sam Wilson part of this.
I read this, and I was about halfway through it, and I was thinking, it's okay. And then I actually really enjoyed it. It picks up about halfway through.
You and I talked about Monday or Tuesday about this book, and you were like, what? And yeah, then you read it, and it was like interesting, right?
Yeah, Captain America flies coach.
Yes. Captain America flies coach and is stuck between two geeks who figure out who he is.
Yeah.
And it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, and at some point he's in a gay pride parade. Crossbones gets tased in the balls.
What has he done to tick everybody off? And the whole world's mad at him for some reason.
He held some sort of press conference in the official capacity of Captain America.
Oh, he took a political stand.
Yes, he took a political stance in a time that is a very divided time in America, just like in the real world. And lots of people don't like it. And you see, Shield and Maria Hill are real cold with him. They cut him loose. And I won't spoil the ending for you, but there's a
great ending.
Yeah, there's a confrontation at the end that leads into the second issue, and I went into this book thinking, I don't know, whatever, and now it's going to be one of my regular reads. Yeah. So,
God forbid you ever take a political stand like saying, "Oh, I don't know, Donald Trump is crazy."
It's so funny because there's tiny little references to Donald Trump in this book.
There is, yes.
Yeah,
It's pretty funny.
it is.
Okay, before we both start on a tirade, Guardians of the Galaxy #1.
Mhm.
This was a good read. This was a very good read.
I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would.
I did too. I enjoyed seeing that they've added Ben Grimm as a Guardian.
Yeah,
Wasn't there somebody else they ordered? They added. Excuse me.
Yeah, Venom.
No, Venom's been around. You apparently haven't been reading.
No, I have not been reading Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, in the last series, he was a Guardian.
Oh, I did not realize that. Also, I don't know how minor. It's not a spoiler. Kitty Pryde is now Star-Lord. I don't know how that happened.
Dude, we skipped 8 months, man. Somewhere in the last 8 months, she became Star-Lord, and Peter Quill became king.
Yeah, Peter Quill is king of Spartax, which is his it was his dad's position. And in the book, you actually see him doing all the kingly things and being very bored with it. And yeah, apparently they're I don't know what they're collecting, what the item was that they picked up from these people, and then they take it to Spartax and meet up with Peter Quill during the way. But either way, I'm interested to see how this goes.
Yeah, it was a good book. I like what they did with it. I like seeing Ben Grimm as a Guardian. It's not a big secret. They've because Marvel took a lot of flack for doing it. They discontinued Fantastic Four. Mm-hmm. There's not going to be a Fantastic Four comic book anytime in the future. And when you get to the end of Secret Wars, they didn't kill him. They didn't do anything like that. No. But the Fantastic Four is doing something different when you get to the end of Secret Wars, and they just in the last let's say 10 years, Marvel has done everything it can to try and get Fantastic Four sales up. Yeah. Now, if you're a Sony person, you're going to say they killed it to try and get the movie rights back from Sony. They put Jonathan Hickman writing the freaking book for 5 years. Okay, they had their best writer doing some of his best work on it for 5 years. That really Jonathan Hickman run was a great run.
Really good.
And it didn't sell flip. I mean, those sales were bad. And if Jonathan Hickman can't make your book sell, dude, you need to tank it, and that's what they've done.
Yeah, and I mean that people get all up in arms about it, but that's just the reality of the business, especially these days. But this Guardians book, and I guess you'll see the other Fantastic Four people show up in other books, but I really enjoyed Ben Grimm's discussion about the rest of the Infinity Armor.
That was pretty funny.
Yeah, they're talking about the Infinity Gauntlet, and he's like, "Where's the rest of it? Where's the rest of the Infinity Armor?" And then he makes a jockstrap joke that's really funny too. And
yeah, it's like, where's the Infinity boots? Where's the Infinity jockstrap? Where's the Infinity breastplate? Yeah, they all just gotta sit there and look at him.
Yeah, the Infinity cod piece.
Yeah,
yeah. And he's just cracking wise, but it was entertaining. Also interesting, the state of the other galactic powers in the galaxy.
I was trying to remember if I read that in this book or if I read it somewhere else, but it was in this book, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's you've got Annihilus meeting with the Brood Queen, and it's supposed to be a meeting of all the big power players in the galaxy.
Yeah, if you back up,
but it's actually just the two of them.
Right. If you back up to the previous Guardians book, it would always be the King of Spartax, the Brood, Annihilus. What's the giant brain that runs the Kree Empire?
The Supreme Intelligence.
Thank you. The Supreme Intelligence. The Skrulls would always be represented. Actually, the Avengers were there representing Earth.
Yeah, the Chitauri and the Shi'ar.
Yeah, they would all be there, and this time there's just those two.
Yeah, Annihilus and the Brood Queen, and they talk about why the others are not represented, and it makes for some interesting implications going forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I looked because I thought surely that wasn't all the all new, all different Marvel, but apparently it is. So
Yeah. And before we get off of it, Brian Michael Bendis is writing it. You and I are both huge fans of Brian Michael Bendis. He was the keeper of the keys of the Marvel Kingdom for many years. Yeah, I'll probably
it, isn't he?
Yeah. I will probably continue reading this book. Just if for no other reason than to find out how in the world Kitty Pryde became Star-Lord, and at what point her and Peter Quill became engaged. I knew they'd been in a little romance for some time, but
that's a funny scene between her and Peter Quill and that other young lady. That was pretty funny.
It sure is.
Anyway, on to the Star Wars books.
Yes.
We have Chewbacca #1. Yeah, what we need to do is get Chewbacca, who can't talk, and Groot, who can't talk, and put them together in a comic book and see what happens.
That would involve crossing universes.
It's happened before.
This is true. Well, it reminds me of a really funny bit that Patton Oswalt did on Parks and Rec one time, where he talks about the Marvel universe colliding with the Star Wars universe, and he ad-libs the whole thing. I'll send you the video later, but it's funny. Did you read Chewbacca #1?
I did, yes.
Okay, what'd you think?
It's not bad.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of expected a little more from Gary Dugan. Maybe it's just because it's the first issue and it's all intro, but I wasn't super impressed with it. And this is the first Star Wars book that hasn't just knocked me down.
It's one of those things where I don't know. I'm trying to remember the name of his home planet. You expected more,
Kashyyyk.
Maybe more. Thank you. Bless you. Maybe it's more of, you expect more of that. You expect more of the Wookiees. I don't know, expected more of Han Solo. I expected more something. Instead, it's just him trying to save a little girl. Anyway.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, he's just saving a little girl.
Yeah, there you go.
It was okay. Yep. I'll read the next couple issues just to see where it goes. But
I assume it's a 4 or 5 issue run like these other books have been. So
I assume so. Yeah. That brings us to Star Wars Shattered Empire, The Force Awakens Shattered Empire. So title, subtitle, subtitle.
Yeah.
This has been a really good book too. It follows the parents of Poe Dameron, who you saw in the Star Wars 7 in the theaters there. The wife is pilot for Leia Organa. They get into some trouble on Naboo because, even after he's dead, the Emperor's still got tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah, and this was a very entertaining read. It's classic Star Wars.
Oh yeah,
it follows the same formula that was used in episode 1. Not episode 1. Let me back up. Episode 4, 5, 6,
and 7,
3 and 4.
Yeah,
3 and 4 and 7. Definitely 7.
Yeah,
they didn't deviate from 7. So yeah, it was good. It was good.
Yeah, you got Greg Rucka writing it. Yeah, man. I mean, I don't see any reason why this should not just continue on forever. I really hope this is not a limited series, but I have a feeling it's going to be.
You obviously didn't see the last page, which said to be concluded next issue.
Oh, no, it sure did, didn't it? Oh,
yeah, it did.
Bummer.
Yeah. Wow.
Trombone sound. Star Wars #10. I have not read this yet. It just didn't get read. I have been reading this whole series though, and that has been very good. Takes place between A New Hope, right after the destruction of the first Death Star, and before they get to Hoth. And Luke is trying to find out how to become a Jedi. While being relentlessly hunted by Darth Vader.
Yes.
Written by Jason Aaron, drawn by Stuart Eminem, who does great art. One of the best series I've read in some time.
And I'm looking forward to reading it. It's one of those series that I have not read, and I really enjoyed the Darth Vader book. And I'm looking forward to going back to #1 and reading the first 10 issues of this so I can get caught up on it. Which is the beauty of Marvel Unlimited, so that you can go back and just sit down in a couple of evenings and read all 10 books.
Yep. That's I found that with a lot of comic books, that's the way I like to read them. Is just from month to month, I find myself forgetting details or getting lost. And then sometimes I find that sitting down and just reading a whole series, issue to issue to issue to issue until it's over, really helps the narrative flow a little better for me anyway.
Sure. In the miscellaneous books this week, we have Captain America White #3. Again, that's written by Jeff Loeb. Have you read that? I know you read 1 and 2. Go ahead.
I did. It's Captain America and Bucky in 1941 Nazi Germany. It's really good stuff, man. Tim Sale's art is fantastic. They get at the beginning of the book, they are confronted with some Nazis. And it's really funny because this is a time where Nick Fury still has both eyes, and they take these Nazis hostage, or not hostage, but they tie them up and they take their uniforms. And one of the commanders of the Nazis is wearing an eye patch, and they make Nick Fury wear the eye patch. So it's kind of a little tongue in cheek there, but Captain America and Bucky fighting Nazis. They meet up with some French heroes that help them along. Yeah, man, good story. I believe this is also a limited series, but totally worth it. Great art, great writing. If you like Captain America, this is a book to be reading.
I'm reading the cover of Deadpool vs. Thanos, and that would be the reason I haven't read the whole book.
I'm just not a huge, I haven't seen the movie. I'm just not a huge Deadpool fan. Sometimes I like it, sometimes I don't. It depends on who's writing him.
I am a Deadpool fan. I just Thanos kills Deadpool in 3 seconds.
Of course.
And to even drag it out beyond 2 panels is ridiculous. And I don't know how you're even trying to get it 4, 5, 6 issues. It's insane. So no, I haven't read it. I'm not going to read it. Okay. I'm just not.
Yeah. That, we're not trying to disparage anyone who enjoys reading Deadpool. But it's just not for us.
And the thing
if you want to read it, read it.
I really enjoy Deadpool. I really enjoy Thanos. It's like, let me think of a food comparison here. I enjoy fish. Okay. I enjoy spaghetti. I'm not going to put the two together in a bowl and eat them together.
Ew.
Okay. They're designed to be eaten separately at different meals. Okay. I enjoy Deadpool. I enjoy Thanos. Let's keep the two in different comic books. Okay. Let's keep them apart and enjoy them separately.
Yeah, I can imagine the slapstick of Deadpool takes away the seriousness of Thanos.
Yeah.
And I'm not into that.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, we've got a couple of Infinite Comics 1, 2. Yeah, from the Marvel Universe, if you're into those.
I have not read them, probably won't. If you like those, great. I've actually heard really good things about them, but it's like I've talked about before. I got X amount of time to read comic books. That just got dropped.
It just doesn't make it far enough up the list.
Yeah.
What it did make it up the list is it's very funny. The What If series began as alternate universes that the Watcher looked at.
Yes.
And
which are always interesting.
If you looked at the all new, all different Marvel, I'm getting better at that. A couple of weeks, I'll have it down really good. They destroyed all the alternate universes, but as they're relaunching the all new, all different Marvel, you're getting a series of what if books every week. So because why? Because we have different universes again. So in this one, in the What If Infinity Inhumans, this is a really good book. I did have the opportunity. I wanted to read both of these, but I had the opportunity to read this one with the Inhumans, and it was really good. It was really good. It takes place during the Infinity storyline, where Thanos, where the Avengers are all fighting all the cosmic powers we were talking about earlier, and Thanos takes the opportunity, realizing all the superheroes are off Earth, to attack the Earth, and it's only Black Bolt and a few of the Avengers left to defend Earth. And this is what if that turned out different. And it's a really good read. Sean, I highly recommend that you read this. That's a really good read, man, because it has a twist at the end that you don't see coming. And it you know, how it ended, how it's got some good twists in it. Let's put it that way. It's a
cool.
really entertaining book. Would you say earlier 5 thumbs up? Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, 5 thumbs up. Okay.
It gets 5 thumbs up.
Yeah. For those who hadn't heard, Pat, you and I talked about this a little bit. There was an Overwatch beta this weekend. So I spent a lot of the weekend playing that and not reading comic books. I did read a bunch of comic books that came out this week, but this one I have not had a moment to get to. But I will definitely be reading it. Now that
and I
you've
did
said
not
that,
get to read that other What If Thanos book. I did not get to read that.
I'll definitely be reading that one too.
But that Inhumans book I did get to read. That's a really good book, man, because it's got some good twists in it, man. It really does. It really does.
Cool.
And what else do we have here? We got more Doctor Strange stuff this week. You might not, you would almost think there's a Doctor Strange movie coming, and there was a Doctor Strange trailer out this week. Did you by any chance watch the Doctor Strange trailer?
Only 7 times.
7. There you go. Only 7 times.
Only 7 times. For those who don't know, you will quickly figure out I'm a huge fan of Doctor Strange. This Doctor Strange season 1 is really good. Greg Pak wrote it a few years ago. I actually have the hardcover sitting on a shelf in the living room. It's a Doctor Strange origin story. You know, how did Doctor Strange become Doctor Strange? How did he become Sorcerer Supreme? The art's great. Good writing. If you have any interest in Doctor Strange, you know what? Even if you're not interested in Doctor Strange, read it anyway, because the movie's coming and you're going to want to know about it.
What is that? About 4 or 5 issues? Encapsulated into one book?
I think it's 6. But yeah,
it's buy for $19.99, so it's got to be several issues.
Yeah, it's 5 or 6 issues.
Okay.
But yeah, it's origin story.
Okay, cool. There's other Doctor Strange books dumped in there.
Yeah, some stuff from the 80s. Written by Paul Smith. I'm going to be honest with you. Probably garbage. I mean, you know, Doctor Strange has never been the highest priority character for Marvel.
Yeah, but that stuff from the mid-'70s is probably pretty good.
Yeah, the stuff from the 60s and mid-'70s is probably really good if you like Doctor Strange, if you like the mysticism type stuff. But this stuff from the 80s, while I have not read it, dude, it's comic books from the 80s. That was not exactly the brightest spot in comic book history.
No, it wasn't. Nope.
What's probably good is this giant-sized Dracula #4 by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko here at the very end of this list. If you like old school stuff like that.
Who wrote that? Guarantee you that's not who wrote that.
You might be right. No, David Anthony Kraft. Okay.
And Don Heck. There you go.
I will take back everything I just said.
And here's the reason is Stan Lee didn't write anything after 1972.
Yeah, he just put his name on it.
Yes.
Yep. There's some Fantastic Four stuff in here too, if you want to talk about it.
Not really. It's just it's a couple of issues that are just kind of thrown in that apparently were missing. There's an annual in there from 1977, and there's Fantastic Four 379. Which seems to be no reason. The 50th anniversary issue, which was actually a pretty good book. It had a lot of entertaining stuff in it.
Yeah, it looks like they're just kind of filling in gaps.
Yeah.
Yep.
The Fin Fang 4.
The Fin Fang 4.
Actually, we'll do it as a classic book one time. There was a time where Fantastic Four went missing, and golly, who filled in for him? It was the Hulk, the Wolverine. Who filled in for him? It was the Hulk, the Wolverine. Was it the Punisher and somebody else?
I don't know, man.
I'll find those books somewhere. It was pretty entertaining. And Spider-Man. Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, that's when he had the bag over his head.
Yeah.
In the Fantastic Four costume. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think that wraps up pretty much everything in the news section this week. So that brings us to our classics portion, which, is where we highlight some older stuff that, while older, is still worth reading. And so, Pat, I'll let you take it over. It is your segment, as you are in yourself a classic.
Yes, I am. I am I am actually classified as an antique. Yes, by definition of an antique, that's what I am. Thank you. It's in doing this. This is actually our third episode, and we got the website up this week. You can go to the website now, www.6monthsbehind.com, and building the website. I was going through the classic section, trying to figure out what to recommend. If you talk to any comic historian, where comics became what they are today, not just in the Marvel universe, but in the whole comic universe, you have to start with the Lee Kirby run on Fantastic Four, with Fantastic Four #1 that came out in 1962. And they wrote 102 issues together. It's Fantastic Four #1 through Fantastic Four 102.
That's a long run.
That's a long run. I looked at it. I think it was 7 years. It's a great run. It's 102 issues.
That's just not done anymore. I mean,
it's not, man.
Yeah, Brian Michael Bendis wrote Avengers for nearly 10 years, but that's almost unheard of in itself. I mean, most of the time it's 6 or 12 issues for a writer.
Dan Slott's been on Spider-Man forever. But if you look at what they did in those 102 issues, dude, they created. Let me back up. They just didn't create these heroes before the Fantastic Four. First off, before Fantastic Four, comics were dying. Okay, the comic books were monsters and westerns, and the comic industry was dead. Now, depending on whose version you listen to, whether it's Stan Lee or Jack Kirby's, they went to the owner of Timely Magazine, Timely Publishing, which soon became Marvel, and said, look, we've got this idea for Fantastic Four. And they pitched the idea and came up with these 4 characters. Now, what was different about these 4 characters was until that time, you had the Justice League of America, you had Superman, you had Batman. They would merrily go out, find a bad guy, beat up the bad guy, crack jokes while they did it, and live happily ever after. There was no interpersonal drama. There was no friction between the heroes. The heroes, their personal lives were great. They didn't have financial problems. They didn't have personal problems. They didn't have injuries. They just lived these happily lives, and they just kind of went along their merry way. And that's the way comic books were written. And with the Fantastic Four, in Fantastic Four #1, you have these 4 people who don't want their powers, who are immediately, Ben Grimm is immediately trying to beat up Reed Richards for what he's done to him. They're immediately in conflict as a group because they're angry with each other over what happened. In 4 or 5 issues, I think in issue 5 or 6, they're thrown out of the Baxter Building because they can't pay the rent. They're angry at each other all the time, and there's friction continually in the group. This was unheard of in a superhero comic book.
Right. I mean, before that, it had all been pulp stuff, Western, like you said, Westerns and,
sure,
tales of mystery and things like that. And then it became this sort of superhero thing, but they were all perfect. Nobody had any problems and just bad guy of the week sort of stuff.
Sure. Bad guy of the week, the Joker would show up, much like the old Batman TV show.
Yes.
The Joker would show up, Batman would beat him up, he'd go to jail. A couple of weeks later, he'd get out of jail, Batman would beat him up, he'd go back to jail, they'd do it all again. This is what comic books were. And then with Spider-Man and the Fantastic Four, you had this friction in them. And during this run of 102 issues, they created the characters that laid the foundation for everything that you have in the Marvel universe now. They created the Inhumans. They created Galactus. They created the Silver Surfer. They created Doctor Doom. They created all these great. They created the whole Marvel universe.
The Marvel universe really came out of the Fantastic Four and Spider-Man books. You were talking about the Watcher with those What If books earlier. The Watcher was a very early introduction in these books.
Yeah, he was introduced in issue 48.
and became
Now,
a pivotal character of the entire Marvel franchise.
yeah. Now I want to say something here, and there's an interesting. If you go to the website, I'm going to say it again, 6monthsbehind.com, because we've got all this launch now, and we're on the exit. Bean's going to tell you how to contact us via email, and soon we'll have all these social media items up. There's a page there called Lee and Kirby, because I'm going to ruin your childhood and your image of Stan Lee here. Stan Lee didn't create all this. He claims to have created all of it. At best, if you understand the Marvel method and how it worked, and again, the Marvel method is something they used to create these comic books. Until Fantastic Four #1, here's what would happen: a writer would literally write out the script for a comic book, and panel by panel would hand the writer or hand the artist what he wanted drawn in each panel. He would write the script. Then he would say, "I want this drawn in this panel, panel by panel by panel," and he would hand it to the artist and say, "Draw this." With what became known as the Marvel method, which is now universally done, Stan Lee would write down literally one page of notes on a legal pad, rip the page off, hand it to either Jack Kirby, Steve Ditko, or Gene Colan, and say, "Here's the outline for the story." In the outline with Kirby may be as simple as, "Let's bring Dr. Doom back this issue." That may be what he told Kirby he wanted for that issue. That's it. That's all. That may be all the notes. And then Kirby would decide whether or not, okay, I want 4 panels on this page. I want a 1-page splash here. I want the whole thing to be 2 pages, and it's just going to be 2 pages of artwork. Kirby would then take it, or Ditko in the case of Spider-Man, would then take it and decide how many pages of how many panels of artwork were going to be on each page. They would decide how much art went on each page. They would decide how the art fit on each page. And it completely redefined how comic books were drawn and created. And all that was left were the word bubbles that Stan Lee would fill in. And sometimes on the Fantastic Four, depending on who you believe, Stan Lee didn't even fill in the word bubbles in the Fantastic Four. Kirby wrote the freaking word bubbles, depending on who you believe. Now, if you go to this Lee and Kirby page, I've put up several links there. There's an article about Stan Lee. There's a great video about Kirby. It's actually the first of 5 YouTube videos about Kirby that describes his art style. These guys, I didn't grasp until I started reading this. I didn't really understand how they redefined the comic book industry and the how Kirby redefined art in comic books. And I still don't. But if you watch like the first 10 minutes of that YouTube video that's on that page, you begin to understand how he, not just the Marvel method that changed the way comic books were written, but his art style changed the way comic books were drawn. Mm-hmm. I mean, between Fantastic Four 1 and 102, they changed everything. Completely changed everything.
Yeah, I mean, it changed the whole landscape of the industry and probably saved the industry.
Oh, it absolutely saved the industry. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah,
they didn't just save Marvel Comics; they saved everything.
DC,
yeah,
all of them, and paved the way for the independent publishers. Your Boom Studios and your, what's the other one that was artist driven that came out around in the 90s? Image, thank you. IDW, all those other smaller publishing houses. I mean, this really paved the way, and it became a pop culture revolution. And here we are in 2016, watching these things on big screens. The comic book movies are always the big blockbuster titles every year, making billions of dollars at the box office. It's a crazy time.
Yeah, it's a crazy time. And
all because Stan Lee and Kirby sat in an office in New York somewhere and did this.
Yes, Lee and Kirby did this, and what irritates a lot of hardcore comic book fans is Lee takes all the credit for it, and it's not, at best it's Lee and Kirby, and if you're going to give one person credit for it, Kirby should get the credit for it. If you're just going to give one guy the credit for it, give it Kirby, don't give it to Lee.
Right, but history has not shaken out that way, and there's been multiple lawsuits with the Kirby estate and all that.
Well, it hasn't shaken out that way because Stan Lee is basically P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just, he does a magnificent job of selling himself and the product, and that's not to say he didn't have a great part of it. And I'll close with this: they both did a great job working. Stan Lee was the guy that said, "I'm going to work, then I'm going to go sell my product from the top of the building, shouting with a megaphone." Mm-hmm. Jack Kirby was the guy that just said, "I'm just going to stay in my cubicle and work and work and work and work
and did the hard work."
Yeah, and while Stan Lee was shouting from the top of the building, Kirby was drawing 8 comic books a month, and dude,
that's a lot.
You can't get the dude who's drawing Secret Wars to get out 1 comic book a month. It's taking him freaking 2 and 3 months to get out 1 comic book, and Kirby was cranking out 8.
Yeah, in a time where you had more panels.
Yeah, I know,
and fewer splash pages.
Yeah,
and more dialogue. And so, it's like, dang, man, that guy just drew comic books sun up to sundown and in his sleep.
And if you look, I said I was going to close. Okay, I'm not. If by the time you look at Fantastic Four 48, or you look at Spider-Man 30 through 33, he and Ditko had both hit their stride. And I actually read Spider-Man 30 through 33 because Jim Lee referenced it in that Kirby YouTube video. Jim Lee referenced it, and I went back and read those issues, specifically Amazing Spider-Man 33 first edition, and they had hit their stride, man. And that stuff looks good. I mean, it really looks good. And it took them a year or two to figure out what they were doing and hit their stride and make that art look like they wanted it to. But when they figured it out, dude, that stuff looks good, man.
Yeah, it's it was a historical time in comic books, and it all goes back to this Fantastic Four run and that original Spider-Man run. And it's absolutely worth going back and reading that stuff because this is Marvel Unlimited, and you can do that.
You can read it all. Every book I've just mentioned is there on Marvel Unlimited at your tiny little fingertips.
By the way, just in dollar amounts, what would this collection, Fantastic Four, almost said Final Fantasy, Fantastic Four 1 through 102, what would that cost you in today's dollars?
If you bought the Masterworks, it'd be $150 in Masterwork editions. Was it 10 books to Masterworks? To a Masterworks? Yeah. It'd be $150 in Masterwork editions.
At least.
Any way you cut it, buying it cheap, buying soft covers or Masterwork hard covers between 100 to 200.
Yeah.
If you tried to buy the actual comics, you couldn't afford them. A small fortune.
Yeah, especially some of this early Fantastic Four stuff that is 1, rare, and 2, very valuable.
Yeah, I mean, at the times you and I have seen them, and we've seen them at Bob's, hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Bob's is a local comic book store, for those who don't know. Hundreds of dollars, if not thousands.
Per issue.
Yes, per issue. So $10 a month, you can read it all if you are so inclined.
Or you can try the free trial, which you can go to at 6monthsbehind.com. Click on the link, try the free trial.
Yeah, it's like a month for free.
Yes, 30 days.
Month worth of comic books for free.
There you go. Do we have a tip?
We do. I wanted to highlight some of the stuff in the Discover tab, which is one of my favorite features of Marvel Unlimited. In the Discover tab for this week is first and foremost a character profile of Doctor Strange, the Sorcerer Supreme.
That's the only reason you wanted to go there, man.
No, it's not the only reason. But in here are some really good Doctor Strange stuff. If you want a good intro to who Doctor Strange is, and you want to read some decent stuff, because like we were talking about earlier, that stuff from the 80s is probably not so good. But this is really good Doctor Strange stuff. You have the new book that came out just last week. You have The Oath, which is Doctor Strange being a doctor, which was his first profession. His first appearance in Strange Tales 110 from 1951. His origin story from 169 in Doctor Strange 169. And some of his more recent stuff, like his dealings with the Illuminati and the other Avengers. That blood magic issue from Avengers Annual from 2014, where he makes a deal with the devil and sells his soul for more power. So if you want a quick intro to Doctor Strange, this is the place to do it. You also have a character close up on Cloak and Dagger, who have been a fighting duo for, I don't know how long they've been around, at least the 80s.
Did you see where they got their own TV show?
Really?
Yeah, it's on Flip. I can't remember the name of that TV network, but yes, they're getting a TV show. Anyway, continue.
They'd been working on that TV show for some time. I'm surprised it ever sold, but yeah, I mean, and in here you got like Marvel Knights #1, which was done by a dude that's a big Quesada, Joe Quesada, who's a big wig at Marvel now, back when he was a lowly comic book artist, which introduces also Daredevil, Punisher, a number of other street level Marvel characters. But yeah, Cloak and Dagger, if you want to check them out, they're obscure, but always an interesting read. And you also have the X-Men's Greatest Deaths. Thunderbird, Jean Grey, Cypher, Colossus, Banshee, Nightcrawler. A lot of X-Men have come and gone over the years, and if you want to just see a bunch of X-Men die, this is the way to do it. Some really good storytelling in here, for real. Particularly the Jean Grey stuff, which is, of course, the Phoenix Saga, which everyone's familiar with. You have Nightcrawler from that X-Force series a few years ago, Professor X from AVX from a few years ago, and, of course, Death of Wolverine. But so that's what's in the Discover tab this week. Always worth a look there to see some really good hand-picked stuff from Marvel Unlimited.
Okay,
yeah.
you got me sidetracked because one of those issues was a Peter Parker to Spectacular Spider-Man.
Yeah,
and that's one of those things that irritates me is the Peter Parker run is so incomplete from the 70s.
Yeah, but you got this one.
Well, you got this one, and what they've done is there are very few issues there, but they've actually stuck in a bunch of Cloak and Dagger issues. I opened it up while you were talking.
Yeah.
And there's a bunch of Cloak and Dagger issues here for some reason. Apparently they needed to link the Cloak and Dagger stuff, so they
and it may
stuck
be
in about 10 issues. Anyway.
And it may be an effort with that new show coming to fill that in.
Apparently.
And it's probably why it's in this Discover tab in the first place.
Yeah, it is.
Yep.
Yeah.
So I think we've gone long enough. That's we've covered quite a bit of ground. I did want to point all the true believers to 6 months behind at gmail.com. That's 6 with the number 6. If you want to get in contact with us, questions, comments, nonsensical ranting, hit us up there. I'll have all the social media stuff up and running very shortly. You should see us on the Marvel Unlimited Reddit not too long from now. But for now, unless Pat, you got anything else?
The website is up. I'm putting more and more content on it every day, as I've discussed the Lee and Kirby pages there with some of the items that we discussed during that Fantastic Four run. There's links there for new comics that are coming out every week and the week that will come after, so you can look and see what's kind of coming out in 2 weeks. It's my best guess. There's other pages there, sometime on news, some of the comics that have come out that week. We're adding content to it weekly. I won't say daily, but we're adding content to it weekly. That is 6monthsbehind.com.
All right, fantastic. Well, until next week, everyone, we will see you then.